newsstand. Tonight, CNN and Entertainment Weekly.
The new fall TV season. Is this a season of discontent for TV's big three, ABC, CBS, and NBC?
If they don't change, they're going to get run over.
And what about the new nets on the block? Fox, UPN, and the WB. What's all this about targeting 18 to 49-year-olds?
I don't understand that because nobody like 18 owns a house or a Lexus.
Tonight, we'll see who's likely to rise or fall in the new fall season.
We've got you covered, show by show, every night of the week. The new shows and the old favorites. NBC without Seinfeld.
It's just an activity.
Is Will and Grace the answer? Felicity, does she have what it takes?
What?
And what about last year's It Girl, Ally McBeal? How about Dawson's, Frasier? Should we still tune in?
And we'll take you on a wild TV ride with the creator of the new series, Legacy. From pilot to prime time, it takes one tough cookie to keep it all from crumbling.
You know, I couldn't go in and say, yeah, well, the boss doesn't like you. You have to go, you know. Hello? I'm the boss.
CNN and Entertainment Weekly with Judd Rose and Will Obey. CNN and Entertainment Weekly, two of the world's leading news organizations.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of CNN and Entertainment Weekly. Tonight, we brought the editors and writers of EW to this New York newsstand, and here we'll spend the next hour talking television. It's a tough business, the TV business, and not the business it used to be. Last season, there were 37 new shows, only 6 are still on the air.
And this year, there are 36 new shows on the fall schedule. So tonight, we'll sort through the hype. We'll tell you which shows are worth watching and which you can skip. And maybe, after no doubt with this group a fair amount of debate, predict which ones will survive long enough to see a second season.
So no channel surfing. We'll go behind the screen in just a moment. To paraphrase Mark Twain, the death of network TV has been greatly exaggerated. Oh, sure, cable programs are getting better and there are more of them. And yes, the cost of buying quality shows is at an all-time high, $13 million an episode for ER. And no question, the audience continues to shrink as all the networks go after the same audience, younger viewers. But even with all those problems, the big three are still the ones to watch as this, the 1998 fall season, gets underway.
To understand what's changed in network TV, let's be frank.
Somebody goes to a store and there's only 3 brands of hot dogs. They only have 3 choices to make. They go to a store and there's 100 brands of hot dogs. Now they start getting into, well, do they like the color of the packaging?
That's what it boils down to for the top dogs of TV, NBC, CBS, and ABC. More choice from cable and the newer networks, Fox, UPN, and the WB, forcing the big boys to face fewer viewers, rising costs, and shrinking profits. So now, 3 weeks into the new season, what can we add to that? Not much.
There's a week or two before baseball, and then baseball interrupts everything, and nothing is really going to be the way it is. And then the November sweep starts, and the November sweep is full of specials and big movies, and you can't read anything from that. And then you're into holiday programming, which, is usually full of repeats and specials. And then you're into January, which is mid-season, and half the shows go off and are replaced by new ones.
In other words, nothing is quite the way it seems in the looking-glass world of television.
For instance, in the first 2 weeks of the new season, it was reported that NBC's audience was down 11% from the same time last year. NBC said, well, we still have the 5 most watched shows on TV. To which we say, what?
You see, NBC moved its Tuesday night hit Frasier to Thursdays, replacing Seinfeld.
I'd like to say how honored I am to be taking over this spot.
Frasier's doing well, but not as well as Jerry, so NBC's still big on Thursday, but not as big, and by moving Frasier, the network's hurt itself on Tuesday. So is NBC in trouble? Well, it depends on how you read the TV leads. For instance, a show's success is based in part on its share, the percentage of viewers tuning in.
Veronica's Closet will do a 27 share on a Thursday night, and it's dismissed. And South Park does a 2 share, and it's on the cover of Newsweek magazine.
Of course, Ohlmeyer knows that's because the shows getting the media buzz target TV's most desired viewers, ages 18 to 49. They're supposedly the most likely to buy what's sold on commercials.
You know, I don't understand that because nobody like 18 owns a house or a Lexus.
Joe Queenan writes for TV Guide.
I would have thought that the target group would be somewhat older. But the problem is that young guys who drink beer will watch anything, whereas people who have real lives, adults, they're out in the Lexus spinning around. They're not going to stay home and watch the Brian Ben show or something like that.
And consider, the one network that has traditionally gone for older viewers, CBS, led the primetime ratings for the first 2 weeks of the season. Industry analysts think that's due to CBS getting back NFL football.
And that's the thing that always gets me. Is we have to have football because you reach young guys who drink beer.
Dependent on research and ratings, the networks go for the same predictable shows with the same predictable stars.
TV will lie to you.
I think networks are in trouble if they continue to do business the same way. If networks are willing, and this one is, to do business differently, then I don't think we're in trouble at all.
What in the ABC fall schedule would be considered a risky show?
We have one show called Sports Night that would be considered a risky show. Not a typical comedy, something that you'd call a dramedy.
A risky show, yes, but done the safe way. Over strong objections from the show's creator, ABC reportedly insisted on using one of TV's most outdated devices, canned laughter.
We spot shadow the inside linebacker.
Indeed, for all the talk about risk, many observers say the biggest surprise is how risk-averse this season is compared to last year.
Ally McBeal was a totally different kind of television, and you would have thought that there would have been a slew of sort of strange, quirky Ally McBeal imitators, but they didn't. They just put out a bunch of old recycled sitcoms.
Recycling the past won't change the present. Times are different for the major networks, and lately all three have endured big budget cuts and layoffs. But make no mistake,
there's still a tremendous amount of revenue being generated. I think it's about $14 billion a year in revenue.
So, as the fall season goes on, the networks have plenty of cash, but they desperately need change. But even as fewer viewers watch the broadcast networks, we still do tune in for favorites, new and old.
Tonight, we'll take a look at some of the 36 new shows on the fall schedule, as well as some old favorites, with Entertainment Weekly's Mark Harris, Mary Kay Schilling, Ken Tucker, and Pete Bonventry. Now, we'll begin with Sunday night, but before we do, is this a strong fall season?
It's as mixed as it always is. There's outright stinkers, and there's some really great stuff, but I figure if you can get 4 new shows to become fixated on, in addition to all the stuff you're watching already, you're doing okay, and I think we have those shows. We have them.
Yeah, I think we have to remember that, you know, just a few years ago, there were only 3 broadcast networks. We have 6 of them now, and we have a gazillion cable channels. This is a mighty beast that needs to be fed. It is hard, unforgiving work.
If you're a 20-year-old actor, it's a golden age for you, because that's what they're programming to and for and with.
A writer, if you're a writer or a producer, really.
Or a 200-pound guy in his mid-40s.
I think the networks are desperate, and that's a good thing. It's good for the viewer. I mean, desperation breeds big gambles, and that breeds interesting shows.
That's true.
So let's begin with Sunday night. There are 3 new shows making their debut. The standout show, according to EW writers and editors, is That 70s Show, a retro sitcom that wants to do for the 70s what Happy Days did for the 50s.
Donna, I have to go to the ladies' room. Donna!
I too must go to the bathroom. Eric?
No, it doesn't work that way with guys.
So why is That 70s Show the program to watch on Sunday night?
It's a really clever show. It's got this cast of complete unknowns that are really well done. I think the cast really sells the show. They're very unmannered. This is kind of the anti-Dawson's Creek, you know? To me, it's like funny, quick, very sharp-witted.
Okay, so
Wait, the anti-Dawson's Creek?
Yeah, it's like, you know, without the angst, it's without the, you know, emotional close-ups. These kids just do the business. They're perfect deadpan comedians. I really like them a lot.
Yeah, it's got one big problem. It's set in the 70s.
Yeah, but, well, the 70s was a good decade for comedy,
I think it's got another big problem. It's not funny.
if CBS wins the night, but it's with an older audience, is that a Pyrrhic victory? Because it seems these days that unless you're under 35, the networks could care less about you.
It's true, it doesn't have to do as well as CBS as long as it's drawing those 18 to 34-year-olds.
We're still programmed to think that whoever watches the most shows, that's the big winner. Increasingly, it's the advertisers. That's what drives the programming. If you get that young demographic, that's what the networks consider the real victory within the industry.
Answer this delicately. Young demographic means what precisely?
You know, 18 to 49, okay?
Why is that age group so important?
Because they buy products that advertisers advertise. I mean, the main theory is if you're over 49, well, you know what toothpaste you want to buy. You know what car you want to buy. They're not going to change your mind. That is the theory behind it.
Huh.
So even with that 70s show not being as great as maybe Fox had anticipated, if you're an advertiser, you still put your money there?
Apparently.
Plus, let's not forget that it's sandwiched between The Simpsons and The X-Files.
Right.
But I think where advertisers should put their money is the practice. I mean, to me, this is the best news about Sunday night, that the practice, which just won the Emmy for Best Drama Series, seems to really be establishing a foothold in the ratings at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Sunday night, a good spot for it?
Yes, because now you can go from The X-Files, you go right to ABC. Before it was like The X-Files was over, like, what do I do now?
Right, and then you had to
Now,
watch the second
I can
half
watch
of
the
some
practice.
TV movie.
Speaking of The X-Files, that, I think, is going to be the biggest question on Sunday nights now. Reruns during the summer did not do well.
I don't think it makes a difference.
You don't think?
No.
What about the movie?
I think the movie did fine. You know, it made $85 million. It didn't pull new people into the franchise, but it sure got a lot of the old ones, and I think that's enough to keep the show going.
Okay, well, I guess that about wraps up Sunday night. We'll take a look at the rest of the fall season in this special edition of CNN and Entertainment Weekly. But first, let's take a look at this week's winners and losers. This week's winner, NBC. The Peacock Network is back at the top of the primetime ratings heap, but CBS is right on their heels. This week's loser, Fox. The network is already pulling the plug on 3 new series.
Well, that is not
Costello.
That's just sad.
Getting Personal.
All right.
And Living in Captivity.
But don't worry, it won't affect our relationship.
Coming up,
I'm fine.
she's straight, he's gay,
I can't even think straight.
It's funny, neither can Jack.
and together they're Will and Grace. Can they succeed where Ellen failed?
Pride in our country and its accomplishments are not as...
Well, we're here at the newsstand with the writers and editors of Entertainment Weekly looking at the new fall TV season.
So we continue now with a look at the new shows on Monday. On CBS, there are 3. On the WB, there's 1. UPN is offering 3 new shows, including the one with the worst buzz of the season, not to mention the worst title, The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer. And on NBC, a pair of comedies, one of which is EW's favorite, Will and Grace. That's the ongoing tale about a straight woman and her gay best friend.
And then he says, get this, you don't have to get hysterical. You sound just like your mother.
If you were on Jerry Springer, that's the minute you jump out of your chair.
Yeah, can you believe that?
You're staying here tonight. Go wash your face. I'll make up your bed.
You sound just like your mother. What kind of person says that?
And a person you should have dumped a year ago?
What?
I said I hear they're re-releasing Vertigo.
Will and Grace has opened to great reviews, but so-so ratings. So, for starters, Mark, if it's so good, why aren't people watching?
I think actually it's doing great considering that it's on at the same time as Monday Night Football and Ally McBeal. You know, it's the highest rated sitcom of the night on any network among 18 to 49-year-olds, that key demographic that we were talking about. And I think the more people who do watch it, the more they'll like it, because this show has a very, very tough line to walk, and it's walking it very well.
But there is going to be some concern about whether the gay character is always going to be sort of too straight. Is he going to deal with being gay? He has to deal with being gay. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it shouldn't become sort of, the girl can have all these relationship crises, but the guy basically is always there just to, kind of make her feel better.
I think what they have to remember is that being gay is not a personality trait. They have to give him a personality too. It's not enough to just define him by the fact that he's gay. So far, the episodes have been an awful lot about him supporting her through her various crises. For the show to work, and I think it will work, it's got to be about both of them.
Right. When your lead-in is Caroline in the City, one of the most boring sitcoms in the universe, I mean, this show is doing extremely well.
Tell us what you really feel.
Sorry, that's the way I feel about it.
See, what a lot of people don't realize about Monday Night Football, there are an awful lot of young men who don't watch Monday Night Football. Sure, they get a big chunk, but there's an awful lot who want to watch Ally McBeal, and there's an awful lot that will watch Will and Grace.
But that does beg the question, why is Monday Night Football not doing, I think they've had their lowest ratings in about 13 years?
Because people have decided to bet on the stock market instead of pro football, and unless you don't have bettors, they're not going to tune into football.
Yeah, so it's going to be sacrilege, but it's a little boring, those 3.5-hour games. I mean,
Especially look at your Will and Grace fans.
So the sum up on Monday, Bumble!
All right, now that the whistle is blown on Monday night, let's take a look at Tuesday. 7 new shows on Tuesday night, one of the most hotly contested nights. 2 on ABC, 2 on Fox, and 1 each on NBC and UPN. And EW's favorite, Felicity, the WB's answer to Ally McBeal.
How come you never went to any parties in high school?
I went to a couple. Just in case you weren't there on awards day, I didn't exactly win most popular. Oh, God, you did, didn't you? You actually won most popular.
Felicity had the best buzz of any of the new shows, but is anyone over 30 going to watch a show about an 18-year-old college freshman? And does the WB care?
Probably doesn't care so much about 30-year-olds, but I think that there are a lot of 30-year-olds who watch Party of Five. It's the 30-year-olds who inside are still 15 years old, especially women, and there are many of us. And I think Felicity will be very appealing.
Now, you really went out on a limb by picking this one. This is the show that everybody has been talking about for months. But why is it so good?
I'm going to go out on another limb right now and say that the pilot was great. Mostly because Kerry Russell is one of the most appealing young actresses on television. The second episode?
Slower.
Oof.
Slow. It was a little, My So-Called Life on Quaaludes.
Exactly.
Exactly. Tuesday night is it's like a great girl night and a great boy night. It's a great girl night because you got Buffy and Felicity.
Exactly.
And then sports night over on ABC, followed by NYPD Blue. If you can, kind of track those shows, it's a great night for TV.
Yeah. The big tragedy of the night, though, of course, is that Buffy and King of the Hill are now opposite each other. Which
big problem.
emotionally wrenching experience for me every Tuesday night, because Buffy is hands down the best drama on television right now.
Really?
Are you
serious? Ken?
Those are her hands down.
And his. It's not just me.
It's extremely witty, extremely well written. Believe me, trust us. Watch
it's
this.
It's really
Watch
great. And King of the Hill is
better than Homicide, NYPD Blue, The Practice.
Right up there with them. Definitely better than NYPD Blue. Definitely better than The Practice. Homicide.
No.
Yes, my friend. Yes.
For what it does and the audience it serves, Buffy is a perfect show.
Before we wrap this segment up, can I make a pitch for a really good show on Tuesday night? A new show.
Go for it.
Sports Night. I really like Sports Night. I think the pace is terrific. The dialogue's great. I think it's got a terrifically cynical view of behind-the-scenes TV. I like it a lot.
I do too, and I don't like sports, and I like this show, and I think that's a real key to the success of a show like that. If you can get somebody like me to watch it.
Guys, Sports Night is about the makers of a cable TV show, all of whom seem to hate each other. What are you saying?
We love seeing stuff like that.
Funny how sometimes it seems so true to life. In all seriousness, this is a very competitive night. Anybody poised to make some major inroads?
The network that's really quietly gaining is CBS. I mean, none of us are talking about JAG, but this has come in, this sort of unfashionable show. JAG has come in against King of the Hill and Home Improvement and Mad About You, and it's done great.
Again, a men's show that I think has been helped by promotion on Sunday now that CBS has football again.
Well, when we return, we'll continue our look at the week in primetime. And how tough is it to produce a hit TV show? Well, here's a show that was canceled almost before the first commercial break. Do you remember Blue Skies?
Yeah, I think you should sit down.
It's a sit-down situation.
You can say that again. This sitcom about an L.L. Bean-esque catalog company lasted about as long as a New England summer.
Did I leave the seat up again?
Coming up, Shannon Doherty is charmed.
I can move things with my mind.
Is she casting a spell on Wednesday night? And what about Thursday? The NBC powerhouse gets a new star. Jessie.
I think I have sweet cheeks, huh? That is so flattering.
Will she make you forget Seinfeld? Daddy! Find out when CNN and Entertainment Weekly returns.
Nobody loves cars more than I do. Each one is a work of art. So when the maker of all these chose...
We now return to CNN Entertainment Weekly with Judd Rose and Willow Bay.
Welcome back to our special edition of CNN and Entertainment Weekly. We've got a lot more for you this half hour. Think it's easy getting a TV show on the air? Well, coming up, we'll show you just how tough it really is as we go behind the scenes to follow a series from pilot to premiere.
Willow, we continue now with our look at the fall TV season with the writers and editors of Entertainment Weekly. Now, what about Wednesday? Between the big three networks and the two so-called weblets, that's UPN and the WB, there are 5 new shows on Wednesdays. All are aimed at that, with the one we're constantly talking about, that all-important audience, viewers 18 to 49 years old. EW says the show to watch on this night targets girls of that age and brings back someone they liked before, 90210 graduate Shannon Doherty. This time, she plays a witch in something optimistically called Charmed.
I do not have special powers. Now, where is the cream? Really? That looks pretty special to me.
So, Pete, will Charmed charm the audience that we keep talking about, the young female audience that's already watching Dawson's Creek?
Well, judging from the pilot, which I've seen, I think it's got good potential.
Shannon Doherty is a good witch,
Yeah,
huh?
as a witch. It's shockingly cast against type. I'm amazed at the imagination and the courage to do this.
This is truly like the youth night, though. I mean, you have every age of youth. You know, Charmed, this brand new show trying to get a foothold. Dawson's Creek should be just coming into its own. I mean, this should be its season to really break out. Then you have Party of 5.
Over.
Yeah, I mean, we loved this show for 4 years, but it's beginning to look like in its 5th year, this show really doesn't have anything more to say. And then this indefatigable dinosaur 90210 going into its 9th season. I know you think it's over, but I think it's beyond over. I mean, I think it was over 4 years ago, and now it's entered some weird new age of kind of
Somebody call up and tell it it's dead.
And guys, remember the big networks. Dharma and Greg is doing very well this season.
It's a good comedy.
The quality,
Yeah.
I mean, for a second season, it's really doesn't
He's
suffer
very
from that
appealing.
sophomore slump. It's a really high
We keep talking about this 18 to 49-year-old audience. If you're 55, do you just not
Go to
count?
sleep.
Go to sleep.
No, I think if you're 55, stay up for Law and Order.
That's
At
right,
any
yeah.
age, that's
No,
a
it's
great
good.
show,
Great
and
show.
it's still doing
yeah.
really well.
If you are an adult. You have Chicago Hope, and as Mark said, you have Law and Order. Of course, they're competing with each other, and it makes it kind of tough. I like both shows an awful lot.
Of course, now Phil Hartman gone and replaced by John Lovitz. Is that going to hurt the show, help the show,
Well,
make
it's a
no
show
difference?
that never really did that well in the ratings anyway, although it got a certain cult following. And so it's going to be really interesting to see if John Lovitz can pull off this kind of cast change. You know, they did that first episode very well in terms of acknowledging Phil Hartman's death and the character. So.
With a show like Maggie Winters, obviously CBS is going for a little bit of a youth movement on its own. Any signs that that's working for them?
You know, you want to attract younger people with Maggie Winters, but the lead-in is The Nanny.
Maggie Winters improved on its lead-in, The Nanny, the first week it was on, and that's, at this point, what all the networks are
A show
looking
with
for.
you and I starring in it could improve that.
Okay, that about wraps up Wednesday night. Let's move to Thursday night, which for the past few seasons has been owned by NBC.
There are 3 new shows premiering, one on ABC, one on the WB,
and Jessie on NBC, which EW says is the one to watch. It stars Christina Applegate, who used to be unmarried with children. She's now a single mom with a 10-year-old son.
So, hi and welcome. Welcome and hi. Take your pick.
Thank you. I don't mean to bother you, but can I borrow a can opener?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Don't let him take it. You'll never see it again.
Sorry, I didn't hear you through that thick newspaper.
Well, as we said, in case there is a television viewer around who doesn't know this, this is NBC's big night. Now, the network is counting on Jesse to hold the Friends audience. Do you think it can do that?
I think almost anything can hold that space between Friends and Frasier. I think, you know, Jesse really has yet to prove itself. But Friends especially is being, you know, for a show that was kind of hot and then cold for a while, it's very strong again. And so I think that kind of lead-in is very important.
It's a step in the right direction, I think. I mean, when Union Square or The Single Guy was on after Friends, you had to make sure you were out of the house, not within hearing distance of any place that those shows were. I wouldn't necessarily sit down for Jessie yet, but I'd keep it on and listen. And she is, you're right, really charming and a very winning person to build a show around.
I'm not sure, though, that Frasier is the appointment television that Seinfeld was. I mean, I think people know that it's a great show, it's a classy show, it's a good ensemble show. I don't know that people feel terribly passionately about it, and that could work against Jessie.
I hear more people talking about Friends this year than about Frasier. And I think that might have been a strategic mistake of NBC's. They might have put Friends in at that 9 o'clock spot and done better.
So you're saying that NBC is theoretically vulnerable on Thursday nights?
It's probably still going to win the night, but it's lost.
Certainly at 9:30, where Veronica's Closet is on. I mean, that is like the national bathroom break. You know, exactly. I don't think there's a reason in the world to sit through another episode of Veronica's Closet.
I mean, it's, you know, Thursday night, even though those 5 shows finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they've dropped considerably in the ratings because of Seinfeld leaving.
I have a burning issue about NBC's Thursday night lineup. What is with Noah Wiley's beard? And how long is this going to last? It's got to go. It is a big, big mistake.
All right, Noah, hear that? Who's the beard? That's it for Thursday night. George Clooney, of course, is one of the big names on Thursday nights and arguably one of the cutest names. But before ER's, Clooney's career seemed to be in serious condition. Here's a look.
I've been playing great. I always play great. I wanted the files of every known offender with the same MO. We got 77 suspects.
There's a flu going on, but I had a flu.
Okay, so you didn't do it, right? You didn't tell her how you feel.
Newsstand.
We're back at the newsstand with the folks at EW talking about the new TV season.
Willow, we're up to Friday night, which is up for grabs. All of the networks are trying new shows. A total of 6 make their debut, and one of them is called Legacy. It's about an Irish family in Kentucky after the Civil War. An unusual premise, and you might wonder how hard it was to get it on TV. Well, we're about to show you how it took a year to go from pilot to premiere. Newsstand's Michael Oku takes us behind the scenes of Legacy.
2 writers burst into frame, racing their horses at...
10 months ago, Chris Abbott sat down to write herself a ticket on one of the most expensive rides Hollywood has to offer, the chance to create her own network drama. Armed with her pilot script, she was trying to land the title of creator and executive producer of a series she called Legacy. Her script was one of roughly 300 to 400 commissioned by the networks this season. Out of that number, only 135 made it to the next stage, a pilot. Legacy was one of those. The world that Chris created is Kentucky in the 1880s. It revolves around Ned Logan, a widower and prosperous horse breeder with 3 sons and 2 daughters. Think Bonanza meets Legends of the Fall.
It's a stupid idea Paul had. I mean, taking in an orphan, everybody's laughing at us. What do you care what other people think?
Little House on the Prairie was her first staff writing job. She was hired by Michael Landon. She then went on to write over 150 scripts for all kinds of TV dramas. She's tried to create her own show 4 times before. Legacy is her 5th try. It's May in New York. UPN, which finished in the cellar last season, rents out the American Museum of Natural History to announce their new schedule to the world. The industry odds say only 1 pilot in 3 becomes a series, but Chris gets the official word in New York. Legacy is a go. and will get the network's critical 8 p.m. Friday slot.
I have never before been in an experience where you walk in the room, you pitch them the show, 3 months later, you see the show on the screen, and it's the show you pitched in the room.
A month later, at the annual UPN affiliates meeting, Chris Abbott is lobbying for her show.
Hey, stick with us.
Oh, no, I mean, we made a good choice, and our numbers have increased.
The support of the affiliates, those stations that carry UPN across the country, is critical for a new series. They determine how much promotion a show will get.
Did you meet anybody else that I should go see? Did you meet any other affiliates?
In July, Legacy's actors make the rounds of interviews on the annual press tour in Pasadena. The goal is straightforward, to generate buzz for the show.
Cute boys on horses and romantic clothing and all that stuff gives you kind of a base, a guaranteed starting point of viewership, do you think?
I think it does. I hope that it does.
Now, at long last, after 9 months of touting Legacy to everyone, Chris Abbott can finally focus on starting production.
I leave tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for Richmond, Virginia, and we'll start shooting on August 3rd, and then the train is barreling down the track. There's no stopping it.
Even before shooting starts, publicity photos are taken, twice as many as normal, in the hope that the print press will snap them up and start the hype.
That's great.
Every tact is explored.
Can you and Jeremy just switch positions?
The pictures range from formal to rugged to provocative. Come on, there's a little bit of a cheesecake and a beefcake quality to the whole thing, isn't there? Aren't you selling that to a certain extent?
I certainly hope so, Ollie. Yeah, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with selling beautiful people. I think we have some very, very attractive cast members.
About 6 weeks later, those images, now blown up to 10 feet tall, start appearing on billboards across the country, or plastered on walls as wild postings in cities, in TV guide ads. Expect to see commercials on the Lifetime network targeting women.
Friday nights with the men of Legacy.
UPN calculates that by the time the series premieres, potential viewers will have been bombarded by over 1 billion messages seducing them to watch Legacy.
Legacy, coming Fridays this fall to UPN.
We're going to do this first so we can get Lane out so we can go sing on...
And then we're going to go...
It's September in Richmond, Virginia, and the series is finally in full swing. At some point in time, there was an empty sheet of paper, and it's become this.
Oh, it's great. That's my favorite part about writing. That's what I love more than anything. You sit in a chair, and in your mind you think, grand estate on the river. And 6 weeks later, you're standing at a grand estate on the river. It's physical. It's come from the ether, and it's now physical. It's incredible.
The production is a machine. Every 7 working days, a new script needs to start shooting. Chris is constantly consulting with the show's writers. Point by point, the board fills up with the plot and the characters that will go into the script.
Instead of finding another way to get back at me, like you hurt me, you mean, I think we'd like him to say, is that what this is about?
It's really the role of the daddy or the mommy of the show. You are the one who everybody comes to with their problems, with their concerns. You are the one who has to answer all the questions.
Emmy Award-winning executive producer Barney Rosenzweig worked with Chris when she was a writer on his show, Cagney and Lacey.
It is probably the best job in episodic television, but it is also a job that puts you at risk for things like family relationships, personal relationships, and your life. It is a very, very demanding mistress.
Abbott has left her husband and son behind in Los Angeles, some 2,600 miles away. It's a sacrifice she's thought about a lot.
They're coming out to visit me every 2.5 weeks. That's as long as I can stand to be without them. My son is 8. I didn't want to, uproot him from school, take him out there. He has to, meet all new friends, all new school, and he'll never see Mommy anyway. Because the first year of a series, I have to make that commitment to it. I have to, and I want to make that commitment to my show.
Chris works most weekends in her apartment in Richmond, writing scripts for the show.
I love creating a universe. I love being here in my universe. The kind of person it takes, obsessive compulsive.
Which is what you are.
This is what I am. In another society, I would be put away. But in this society, I get to make money.
But early on, there was a crisis. Chris had creative differences with 2 of the show's writers.
We reached a point where I realized that this was my Black Sunday, if you will. I had turned in a script for the very first episode, and UPN was very happy with it. And the other 3 scripts that we turned in from the other writers were, unfortunately, nowhere near the ballpark that we were hoping for.
As executive producer, Chris was responsible.
You know, I couldn't go in and say, yeah, well, the boss doesn't like you, you have to go, you know. Hello, I'm the boss. So it was a very painful, difficult time, and I had to go in and sit down and talk to them and say, this isn't working.
But with the first set of writers gone, she was left without scripts, and that meant the entire production was at risk.
I ended up coming to Richmond and writing 3 scripts in 2 weeks. I mean, it's like undoable. It's not possible. I can't do that. So, but I was going to do it because I don't know how to quit. I'm not going to quit. I've had to make some tough decisions. What it finally came down to is I realized that I have to care more about the show than I care about what people think about me. It's a very strange feeling to come to the place where all the things you used to think about other people, you know they're thinking about you. And now you understand. And it's okay.
What would you tell somebody whose dream has always been to produce a show for television?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of characteristic, what kind of personal qualities they should have? What would you tell them?
Flexibility, patience, courage, humor.
You have to have more than talent.
Oh, much more.
Okay, so what is Legacy's legacy? Pete, did all that effort pay off?
I'll let you decide. This is a show about a horse farm in 1881 Kentucky. There's a wider thing going on here. You have UPN. I mean, look at their two of their new shows. You got Legacy, 1881 Kentucky. You've got Mercy Point. You know, what's HMOs in outer space. Yeah. And then you got the WB, which is eating their lunch. They got Felicity and Charmed. I mean, who's the winner here? Right. Listen, there is hope on Friday night.
Yeah.
Buddy Farrow.
Oh,
I mean, this is the show. If Frank and Dino and Sammy were alive, they'd be watching this show.
With my guy, Dennis Farina.
So smart of CBS, which does have the oldest audience of the networks, to do a show that's sort of so old it's new. Right. You know, older people will like Buddy Farrow.
Right, and of all the nights, Friday nights is the one that's really up for grabs in terms of what audiences want. I mean, Millennium's coming back for a 3rd season, and it's really a big disappointment, at least as far as the first episode was concerned. And so people are casting around, I think. If you're not a little kid watching that TGIF schedule from 8 to 10, you know, you're looking around for something.
Yeah, it's pretty much a wasteland until Homicide, so it's great to have Buddy Farrow.
And what about Homicide? Well, there are more cast changes. A show, of course, that's known for them, but Andre Braugher, who was considered the linchpin of that show, is gone.
It's a little too soon to say. I think some of the hardcore fans are a little concerned about this former beauty queen character because Homicide was one of the few shows that didn't have bimbos.
Right. It's very much like Law and Order. I mean, I think they can weather cast changes because it's really all about the characters and the writing and the plot.
Well, that about wraps up Friday night. Now a look at another show that disappeared faster than you could say, change the channel. Remember the CBS show, Freshman Dorm? These students at fictional Western Pacific University barely saw it to midterms.
You moaned. I've never moaned in my life.
But Frosh hunk Casper Van Dien did graduate to the big screen in Starship Troopers.
I apologize.
Coming up, he's the LA cop with the Hong Kong kick. Can martial law break through the Saturday night doldrums? Find out when CNN and Entertainment Weekly returns.
We will hunt down the enemy, and we will kill the enemy.
FBI! I want you to turn the heat up.
Their objective was the enemy.
We don't know who the terrorists are for sure.
Their methods were different.
I am declaring martial law in this city.
And our freedom
Do you have any idea what you're starting?
Don't ever again question my command. I'm not under your command.
hangs in the balance.
You can't do this. Right now, right here, I am the law.
The Siege. Rated R. November 6th, only in theaters. Zero to your heart in 1 second flat. The Audi A6.
My most important role is being a parent. My children aren't impressed by awards. They just want me to be there for them. That's why I've always loved reading to my kids. They think I make a very scary witch and a great duck. I'm Meryl Streep, and I urge you to read to your children every day, especially newspapers. Reading newspapers will give them the whole story of what's going on around them, and reading will prepare them for the most important role of all, life.
Encourage your child to read a newspaper every day.
Pride in our country and its accomplishments are not a thing of the past.
Orbital pioneer John Glenn returns to space aboard the shuttle Discovery with an international crew on a voyage of scientific exploration. Join Miles O'Brien and Walter Cronkite for the most complete coverage of this historic mission. John Glenn, Return to Space. Live coverage begins October 29th, noon Eastern.
Godspeed, John Glenn.
On CNN.
Welcome back to our special look at the fall season. Now we have one more night to go, but before we get there, you were the only person nodding when I said, does anyone remember Freshman Dorm?
I loved Freshman Dorm. I was hoping it would go on for so long that they'd have to retitle it, you know, Small Apartment After Grad School. But we can't all get our favorites to last.
And our condolences.
And I'm thrilled because here's someone who has less of a life than I do.
That's right.
Okay, very appropriately, we're now up to Saturday night, the night with the fewest people watching television. There are 4 new shows. EW says the one show worth staying home for is CBS's Martial Law, starring Kung Fu master Sammo Hung. All right, so you all say that this is a cult breakout show, but can one of those shows survive on a network?
X-Files? There you go.
Okay.
That answers that question. Even Ally McBeal, to a certain extent, is a cult show at this point. But this show has something that none of those shows have, and that is Sammo Hung. And he is the man.
The next time anybody complains that TV is a home only for conventionally beautiful people, look at this guy. I mean, he is shaped like a bowling pin, but he's the star of the best action show on TV.
Can a network, in this case ABC, survive by resuscitating a piece of cheese like Fantasy Island? What's that about?
The idea was to make it darker, bring in Barry Sonnenfeld, who did Get Shorty, and I don't really think it works. I think this is very overrated. It's got a lot of media hype, but I think it's a pretty mediocre show. The show I like follows that, which is Cupid, which has a very cutesy idea, which is very well done. Jeremy Piven, who was in Ellen and the Larry Sanders Show, plays a guy who claims to be Cupid and has this relationship with his psychiatrist who's kind of attracted to him, but also kind of thinks he's nuts.
High concept.
Yeah, it could have been terribly coy and cutesy, but instead I think it's really witty. It's very well written.
Who is at home watching on a Saturday night? Is there a consistent target audience on Saturdays?
Very young people and very old people has been the conventional wisdom, which is why it's always been so hard for shows like Cupid, which appeal to the kind of 30-something audience, to succeed.
Let's return to Wind on Water for a second.
By all means.
This is the kind of show that really why people make fun of the networks. I mean, the concept is unbelievable. Bo Derek plays the mother of several young adult men who surfboard off mountains or something.
And while riding horses.
And what do you think of it?
And it's awful. You know, it's just a silly Saturday show that will be gone.
But aren't there certain shows that you want to see every episode of, even though you know there are only going to be about 5 or 6 total? I mean, to me, Wind on Water, Bo Derek and Big Valley with extreme sports, I mean...
We're thinking Freshman Dorm.
Hey, don't knock it.
You get Sammo Hung and Bo Derek in a Freshman Dorm. You got yourself a show. I mean, come on.
There you go. On that note, we'll wrap up Saturday night, and we'll be right back.
asleep for over 7 years. Your mission will change the course of history. But first, you've really got to brush your teeth. The Sonicare Sonic Toothbrush. It cleans with a combination of 31,000 brush strokes per minute and gentle sonic waves. Sonicare removes nearly twice as much plaque between teeth as a manual toothbrush, going where no brush has ever gone before. Sonicare, the Sonic Toothbrush.
For the original aviators, there was only one seat in the plane, up front. For today's business travelers, today's aviators, there is still only one seat in the plane. We know you want that seat up front. That's why TWA expanded our first-class cabins. We've added 60% more first-class seats. Transworld First. It's just one of the ways we recognize you, today's aviators.
We're TWA, and we want to be your airline.
Hiya, Diane, it's Dad.
Hi, Dad.
Just wondering how you're doing in your new home.
Great.
I wanted to remind you to get a spare key made and let me know if there's anything that needs fixing, all right? All right, sweetheart, bye. Hi, Dad again. I forgot to tell you something. Diane, I am so proud of you.
For a free guide that can help you on the path to homeownership, call the Fannie Mae Foundation. We're showing America a new way home.
Imagine TV.
I don't know, Stu.
What?
First, the kids star in their own movie. Now they're doing commercials.
I wouldn't worry, Dee.
But according to Dr. Lipschitz, if children experience fame too soon, it can go to their heads.
Come on, what's the worst that could happen?
Mr. DeVille, I'm ready for my close-up.
New Mercury Villager, now more room and more power. Preferred by grown-ups
and babies.
We'd like to thank all the members of the Roundtable, and before we leave, I'd like to ask each of you, starting with you, Mary Kay, what is your all-time favorite, either new show or old show?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I'd say Law & Order is the one I try never to miss.
Teletubbies. No. X-Files, sorry, X-Files.
I'm with Mark. I like Law & Order.
The Practice.
Hawaii Five-0? Nobody mentions Hawaii Five-0.